Welcome to Ryco Workshop Heroes. I'm Luke Oxley and today we're at one of Australia's leading automotive parts manufacturers, Harrop Engineering. We're here with Heath Moore from Harrop Engineering. Now mate, we've known each other, what, best part of 10 years?
At least, yep.
Yep, and I think in recent times, a lot of people think you guys just make superchargers, but that's far from the case, isn't it?
Superchargers are definitely what we're well known for, particularly with social media, but the business has got a really long history, and whether it's brakes, diffs, suspension components, we do a lot of moving parts on cars.
Why don't we go through the building and have a look at how some of these parts come to life and also what they've ended up on?
Absolutely, there's plenty to see, but let's look at the exciting stuff. So this is our design and project engineering office.
A lot of these projects you guys do, people probably don't realise they can be years in the making, can't they? From development to what you see on a car.
So from conception, and once we've got an idea, the guys can spend many, many months working on the virtual model of what we want to build and manufacturing prototypes, and then the testing and validation of those parts, it does extend into years in some cases.
And especially things like, say, a supercharger on a new vehicle, you might be trying to start the development of that and you don't even have a car yet.
Correct, and whether we have access to CAD from the US with SEMA Garage or we access a vehicle at our US company, in some cases we've been quite fortunate. When the HSV GDS came out, a journalist bought a pre-production car here that we ran up on the dyno, unbeknownst to HSV at the time, so that was good to get a bit of baseline intel. So when a new model's coming out and we want to develop parts, we really have to beg, borrow and steal to try and get the head start on getting the base information to start developing new components.
In an ever-changing landscape in the automotive industry, it's great to see Harrop. Predominantly, most of your stuff is designed and manufactured in Australia still, isn't it?
Very much so. So we have that vertical integration of designing the parts, and then the manufacturing processes are predominantly in-house. Our foundry used to be next door here in Preston for the aluminium castings, and now that's based in South Australia because we needed a much bigger footprint. From the raw castings to the machining to the measurement to the fabrication, assembly, testing, the dynos, it's all here at our head office, which is exciting.
Yeah. Now I go into a lot of automotive workshops. I'm a bit lucky in that respect, but you guys have one of the best floor displays I've ever seen. Why don't we head down there and have a look at some of the machinery you guys have got?
So before we head out, this is actually the foundry that's over in South Australia.
Yep.
We used to have it next door, but now I've got the picture of it. And like I mentioned, we're able to melt a lot more metal with gas-fired furnaces, and it's 3 or 4 times the size of what we had.
Heath, this is an impressive display. How many machines have you got down here?
Oh, it's got to be close to 30. Majority are Mazak, so they're a Japanese CNC machine supported by John Hart here locally. We've still got some of the original manual machines, and some of our team have been with us for over 30 years. They did their apprenticeship, and that's really special. They've got the passion and the knowledge that is really, really important for us achieving what we do. But the business has always been based in Melbourne. Originally started in Brunswick in 1955, so well over 65 years, and it's a pre-tension slab, so it's designed specifically to have these precision CNC machines.
Yeah.
Before we go and check out the manufacturing, I want to show you the quality because that's the essence of what we do. So this is our CMM and metrology room.
So in layman's terms, Heath, what does that mean?
Well, a CMM is a coordinate measuring machine. So we've got 2 of these. VJ's running a program on this. That's actually a wet sealed brake for a customer of ours, so it's for mining applications. But there's a touch probe there that measures down to microns. So the guys on the shop floor need to make sure that the machine is building parts to the drawing, to tolerance. So the first off inspection will give them the tick to then go and make maybe 10, 50 or 100 parts, because you don't want to be making 50 or 100 bad parts. We need to get the precision.
Do you have to pull one out at a certain point and check along the way that it is still?
Depending on the component, some customers require 100% inspection. So every part will get inspected here after it comes off the machine, particularly for aerospace. For our parts, it might be 1 in 10 or 1 in 5 that will just make sure the machine's holding tolerance. This is a really good example, Luke, of a one-off prototype. We've 3D printed the sand to make the mould to pour the aluminium. So structurally, it's just like a normal production part, but enables us to actually get a production intent part without going to the time and effort of making
A mould.
the patterns to be able to make production sand.
And it's essentially the same as like you see people 3D printing plastic. It's the same. There are 3D metal printers, aren't there, as well?
Yeah, exactly. So the technology for additive manufacturing is accelerating really quickly, but this is a good example of how we can use it to get parts quicker to validate. Like we just saw in the metrology room, this is a customer program, certainly not high performance, but very heavy duty. So it's a fully sealed wet brake for mining applications where the brakes, the factory brakes just wear out.
A popular product you guys sell are the e-lockers for four-wheel drives. You guys pump out a lot of those, don't you?
Yeah, it's a huge program for us. They're a cast iron housing that we receive in, we turn them on the lathe and then mill them, and yeah, we're building thousands and thousands of these. This area here is where we do a lot of the supercharger production. This is a raw casting from the foundry. It's been sent out to be powder coated, but that's ready to go onto the machine. And that's what this horizontal machining centre is doing at the moment.
These look like they're all supercharger manifolds, but they're all obviously different applications, aren't they?
Yeah, as you know, vehicles have got all different engine bay packaging constraints as well as the engine configuration. So whether it's a narrow V6, like this is a 2GR 3.5 litre Toyota integrated manifold assembly. So you can see there's the ports.
Oh yeah.
But it's actually inverted, so the 1900 rotating group is in here. It blows the air up through that discharge port. There's a lid here, really big intercooler core.
And down into the manifold.
Down into the manifold, into the cylinder heads. And then conversely, we've got a traditional LS style top mount supercharger, which is incredibly popular because a lot of people really love the look of the blower sitting on top. A lot of our newer applications are inverted simply because of the packaging constraints, getting it down as low as possible.
You were talking earlier about some of your Mazak gear. Now this is an impressive machine, isn't it, in itself?
This is our newest machine. There's a new one that's on order that hopefully will be here in a couple of months, but this is an i700, so it's actually got a 6 pallet system at the front, so we can run it over the weekend, lights out. The tool magazine takes 120 tools, so you can populate it with all the tools that you need to do the different operations. And it's a 5-axis machine, so turnkey, over $1 million as it sits there.
Yeah, wow. So this thing can machine just about anything you want it to.
That's right, whether it's superchargers, whether it's disc brake hats, it could be cylinder heads, it could be anything. So incredibly versatile and critical for us to get the volume because we have the multiple pallets. It could be doing a lower manifold one day and then it could be doing an idler bracket the next, or it could be doing that in sequence where we've got 4 pallets in sequence and there's the tooling to keep that going, and then the operator just has to load it up every few hours.
But that's critical for you guys because you guys are you could be doing parts for like drag racing, street applications, time attack, off-road.
It's huge.
You're basically covering everything automotive, aren't you?
Traditionally, Harrop was very known for its connection with Holden, and there's deep history there and roots with the Holden brand. But increasingly over the last 10 years or so, we've diversified pretty broadly across the OEM program with Ford, where we did the supercharger for Miami, the Lotus program, which is the Toyota-based engine, and now with our US business, we're doing the trucks like the Titan, the Chevy Silverado, the Ram. If it's an enthusiast vehicle, we've generally got plans.
Something on the go. People probably don't realise you've got a supercharger dyno here.
Only one in the Southern Hemisphere, so Eaton technology is what we use, TVS technology, but every single supercharger gets run on that dyno before it goes to the customer.
This looks pretty innocuous, Heath, but what is it?
It's billet steel that we turn and then mill, but this is the side of a True Track, so an LSD, really common with the Commodore and Falcon guys that we supply. That's the finished part. What it starts out as is a biscuit like this. So we load up these 4 drawers with the steel billets, and this machine will load and unload the machine for each part, and it goes in like that, and it will come out like this, finished including the part number.
Wow. So how long roughly would that take?
I think it's around 20 minutes. Yeah. So when you look at each drawer that we've got times 4.
This could run overnight, yeah?
It could. The main thing you have to manage is swarf, which tends to build up with steel, and also tool life. But the machines have now got probes that actually monitors tool life, so it will stop or change tools. So again, maintaining that tolerance, because it's a dimensionally critical part.
Yeah, it would be. This is one of my favourite rooms in Harrop Heath, because this is where the magic happens. But it's always, no matter what time of year, it's always a nice temperature in here, isn't it? Because these are all assembled at a certain temperature.
Correct, yeah. We like to maintain a consistent temperature. Even on the shop floor, you'll notice we've got heating and cooling, because the metal can change dimensionally if it's not kept consistent. So after the castings have come from the shop floor, Teng and Steve will do the assembly of what we call the head unit. It's effectively the air pump module, like we see here. So these are for Nissan Patrol, Toyota Tundra, and they'll get tested next door. So every single unit will go through a cycle, might be 7 to 9 minutes, and it's both through load, RPM, and that looks at temperature, looks at the boost level, and we know that it's in spec. It's serial numbered, so if someone ever has an issue out in the field and it comes back in, we can compare it. The kits are actually done by Steve and the team in here. So once we've got the air pump, so in this room we do the final kitting. This particular unit's our new LSA H2650i.
Very popular unit, Heath.
Yeah, it's getting the numbers, and you've seen from the drag racing, there's guys running really quick with late model
The thing
LSAs.
I like about this one, it's a total bolt-on. Once it's in the car, you wouldn't even know the car's ever been modified.
Correct, so if it's a factory LSA car, this can swap out the lower 1900 unit with our 2650, and all of the other ancillaries integrate.
Even the factory hat goes on, doesn't it?
Correct.
But you guys now sell a very nice upgrade to that, don't you?
Well, when you're moving that much air and the boost level's getting up, it does create heat. So we've got a much larger intercooler brick that sits above the supercharger, and a larger volume hat, effectively, the lid, that works with the VF models, which have got more room than a Camaro ZL1 that this was originally designed for the LSA.
Just being in this room, Heath, I can see so many different styles of superchargers. I mean, you guys must do thousands of these per year, yeah?
Yeah, we do. There's literally thousands, and no 2 days are the same, given the different orders that come through. So there's some good examples over here of the way this is the BMW manifold, so it uses a 1740 for the 4-litre V8, and this here's the new 2650 for the Silverado LT-based truck. So this particular unit's going on the engine dyno very soon.
Okay. So Heath, this is a good example of, you were talking earlier about different engine packaging. This one's got a lid, but this one looks like it's a one-piece unit.
Correct, so this is integrated, the cores slide in from the front. This engine from factory has individual throttle bodies, so 8 of them, and then we mount to that. So there's no throttle body on the inlet for the supercharger, so there's a lot of whine that we get from the M3 base unit. Whereas the LT unit here, clearly throttle body at the front like we see traditionally, and then it's got the lid with the 2 large intercooler cores side by side. So the design effort up front that our guys put into getting the packaging optimised is the secret sauce. Like, there's incredible capability that we've got on the shop floor, but this unit, without our logo, looks like it's a factory BMW part.
It does, absolutely. That's what I like about your stuff. It looks like it's just come from, but you've also got that tie too. You've done in the past so much OE work, haven't you?
That is a strong connection. Like we often say, it's OE quality for the aftermarket, and we do have OEs that have come to us, like Lotus and Ford, where they want to use our product for their high performance special models, and we use the learnings from that for all of our applications.
It's not just big engines you guys do superchargers for, is it? And I've actually driven one of these. This is a great little package on the FA20 or the BRZ or 86. The cars are pretty flat standard, let's be honest, and the supercharger kit gets them up and going. But you guys also have a time attack Toyota, don't you?
Yeah, it's an excellent development test bed for us, and we push the absolute limit and beyond the limit with the FA20. So this is needing a rebuild. It failed at World Time Attack.
Heath, being a Subaru motor, it's out of the car broken. It's not really a surprise, is it?
We've got the FA24 that's coming in the new car, and we've done some development work on a couple of US sourced engines. Well, we run a 1320 supercharger on a 2-litre engine, so we're really not working the blower very hard, and at modest boost, the engines are very reliable, but when you're running 450 hub horsepower and it's 20 PSI on E85 on track, the loads are just exponentially higher than someone that's driving around on the street. But from 4 cylinders like the 86 and the Mini that we do, right through to V6s and V8s, and I'm sure there might even be a V10 or a V12 on the horizon at some point.
I hear you've got one in development for the Jimny. If there was ever a car that needs some get up and go, it's the Jimny, isn't it?
And our little development rig's got a little bit bigger tyre on it, and it's an automatic, so it's a slug. So that's something we'll be able to share soon, but it's going to have a 900, TVS 900.
Yep. We've just looked at the 2-litre Subaru motor, Heath. Now this is at the other end of the spectrum, 7.3 litre. This is the new kid on the block. These are very impressive engines, these Ford Godzillas, aren't they?
So this is Ford's new V8, 7.3 litres. It's from the Super Duty F trucks in the USA, on the heavy duty trucks. They've got their Power Stroke 7.3 diesel, or they've got the gas option. So we got onto development pretty quickly.
You did, yeah.
We bought one out of a dealership in the US, because we could see it's a cam-in block. It had a great looking cylinder head, alloy cylinder head. It's an iron block. Once we did that initial work on the engine dyno and then put the supercharger on, the Ford community have been, they've had Coyote for quite a few years, but now to have a traditional pushrod V8, I think it's fantastic for that part of the market, and this supercharger kit just transforms the performance.
You mentioned Dandy Engines. The guys have been testing one of these in an old Aussie Ford Falcon. They're already in the sort of bottom 8 range on the quarter mile. A very impressive bit of gear.
Yeah, all controlled by Fuel Tech, and Nads's XA is blown up on social media. Like, people are loving it. It's running a radial 275, and we know Frank's got a lot of experience with radial cars and getting them set up, but we've got, there's hopes that might see a high 7 one day soon.
So when you're developing a supercharger package like this, you obviously have to start off with an NA application, and the only thing you can really change there is the oil and filtration, isn't it? And that's where your relationship with Ryco's been good.
Correct, yeah. Ryco have got excellent oil filters, so they're the go-to. And we do start with a completely stock engine. We need to start with what most customers have got.
Yep.
And then we generally build upon that, whether it's rods, pistons, different fuel, to really push the performance potential. The oil and the filtration is the lifeblood of the engine, and we want to make sure that's spot on.
As someone who films a lot of dyno tuning sessions, Heath, not all of them go to the plan, but anyway, you guys have got some of the nicest dyno facilities going around.
We started with one room,
yeah,
and which is Dyne Cell 2, but we actually built this second one and worked with Mainline to get one of their Pro Hub dynos, because, as you well know, some of our customers are pushing well over 1,000 hub horsepower. And our all-wheel drive Dynapack is great, but it's got its limit, and this allows us to go well past that.
Your 2,000 horsepower hub, somehow I don't think the little 86 is going to...
No, it's not going to frighten the Pro Hub in the power stakes, but we do a lot of development work in here before we go to the track, or certainly before customers receive the product. And in both cells, we've got data acquisition with multi-channels, so we've got the ability to look at all the critical aspects and make sure they're on target.
And here's the 86 we were just talking about. This thing's a little rocket. Look, to be honest, Heath, I'd rather go for a ride in this than a 1,000 horsepower LS, and that might get the comment section lit up, but going around corners is my thing and your thing too, isn't it?
Yeah, no, we absolutely love getting out on track, and this car has had a pretty long development journey, when the 86 first came out, but it's a pure race car now, so we're now running a Hollinger gearbox just for the durability, because we had a lot of issues with transmissions. It is a rocket. We're running a bigger tyre now. It's a 295 at all 4 corners, 35 profile. Speaking
of new development parts, Heath, you've got some very nice looking billet calipers on here. You tested these at Time Attack.
Yes, they're brand new. They're a forged monoblock, so they're a 6-piston caliper, but we've got the 4-piston on the back. We're running our traditional Harrop multi-vane directional rotors with an aluminium floating hat, and the feedback on track was just, the pedal feedback was brilliant, so we're excited to get those to market really soon. But the history with brakes is, it goes back a long way, certainly a lot longer than superchargers, and back in the touring car days, whether it was HDT or Perkins, who you guys have spent some time with recently, Harrop brake calipers were, the go-to for motorsport. And now we still do a lot of brakes, both for motorsport applications and also for enthusiasts and street cars.
I think Harrop's catalogue now is so diverse. It's easy to forget some parts that you still make, but you guys just do everything. You can pretty much put a Harrop part from front to back on a lot of cars, can't you?
For sure, and that's often what we do, depending on what the make and model and the appetite is. And some of the parts that we've been making for decades. Like there's an A9X steering arm that we still sell in reasonable quantity, particularly now that people have got that nostalgia with doing up old Holdens. So to run the HQ front end, they'll run a Harrop steering arm.
And I know you still do like differentials for like the old Ford Sierras and stuff, don't you?
Yeah, so that was in collaboration with DJR actually. So Ron Harrop and Dick Johnson got together to make the Sierra diff durable back when they were running those early 90s. It's a 9-inch derivative, it's all aluminium, and yeah, that's available for those historic touring cars that are out there still running around.
Even on this car here, you guys supply a diff hat, don't you?
Yeah, so there's an aluminium upgraded, more oil volume, and we've got provision then to run a diff cooler. And we also still have many of the Commodore models, the early Commodore models, that particular diff upgrade helped with axle tramp and had a lot more capacity for cooling.
So some of the cars I've filmed here over the years are now, I've seen them at the track even recently. Bunch of cars, 8 seconds is the new 10 seconds when we're talking street cars. It's actually got to a point where how much further can it go?
And it's not just a normal street car, like this is a late model.
Heavy cars, yeah.
So a late model GDS, I think they're what, 4,400, 4,500 pounds?
With driver, yeah,
with
for
driver.
sure.
And to see them making over 1,200 hub horsepower and getting down the track in under 9 seconds, it's really phenomenal.
So not only do you guys design and manufacture components here, Heath, but customers can actually have them fitted, yeah?
Correct. So Harrop Performance Centre is like our boutique retail workshop, and it's great to be able to see what customers are asking for so we can better support the dealer network. We've got a network of dealers throughout the country and internationally, but it's a relatively small operation that we've got. We've got a talented group of guys here, and the diversity of cars, from Nissan Patrols to Maloos to Falcons to Mustangs, it's a great way for us to stay in touch with what's happening with the vehicle car park.
So there's obviously a lot of late model stuff here in HPC, but I've just spotted something old over there on the hoist, Heath. Can we go look at that?
Yeah, we do like our classics, so let's take a look. So this is an Australian manufactured 86 Bronco. From memory, they were manufactured here from 81 to 86, and most of them were a 351 Cleveland carby, but the last generation, being this one, was a 302 Windsor. We've had it on the dyno. It's pretty underwhelming in terms of the performance, and it was on gas, so we've basically put it back to petrol and runs a Ryco filter. It's a really good survivor body, like it's been looked after its whole life. And
it looks like you're giving the chassis a restoration, Heath.
Full frame off, we stripped the chassis right back down, we had it blasted, coated. C6 Auto had that reconditioned.
These are headers, Heath. I'm not sure how they're going to support. Surely you're putting a supercharger on this, yeah? Surely. It has to leave Harrop with some boost.
Well, let's say it's under review and keep an eye on Harrop TV for updates.
Thanks for showing us around Harrop, Heath. You've got an amazing facility here, but more importantly, it's great to see Aussie manufacturing is still alive and well.
Thanks, Luke. We're incredibly proud of what we've achieved over nearly 70 years, and we've got a great team of people that love what we do, and that's making cars perform better, much like the Ryco team.
Until next time, for all your filtration needs, check out rycofilters.com.au.